Let's give it up like crazy for Sivan Schondorf. Okay, thank you. So trigger warning, if you are queasy around bodily functions or the discussion of such, then you might want to leave the room. Like many others before tonight, I also despise flying, and I also don't like vomiting, but we'll get to that part later. What I do love are checklists. I love creating them. I love marking things off the checklist, and I feel so accomplished when I'm done. It's like a type A person's crack. So when I was a new parent, it was our first Thanksgiving as new parents, and we had a very busy itinerary for the Thanksgiving weekend. We were living, as we are now, in Chicago, and we had a big Chicago Thanksgiving dinner planned. And the next day, we were flying out to LA, where my husband's family is from. We were going to spend quality time with his family in LA. And then the big event was my husband's best friend was getting married, and my husband was in the wedding. So this was a lot to accomplish for having a new baby. But, I had my checklist. Thanksgiving dinner, survive the flight with the baby, make it to spend time with the family, and wedding. So back to the flying, I'm one of those people also, like we've described, that I think about every turn of the plane, every dip, and I count to the 5-minute mark, because if you didn't know, most planes will crash within the first 5 minutes. So once it's 5 minutes past, I'm feeling a little bit better. But I warned my husband, because we were new parents and flying with a baby, that he was going to be on dad duty to the max, because I really needed the time and the energy to feed into my phobias and nurture them without the distraction of parenting, okay? So Thanksgiving Day arrived, and we had this wonderful dinner. It was like 30 plus people at my parents' house, and we really enjoyed ourselves, and we left with full bellies and the excitement of the wedding weekend ahead. Dun, dun, dun. So the next morning arrives, and I feed the baby a bottle before we leave, and she throws up on me. And, that's no big deal. Babies puke a lot, and mine was a kind of pukey kid. And so we go to the airport, and we're in the security line, and my husband gets this funny look on his face and says, I think I'm going to be sick. And before I can say anything, he darts out of line, jumps over ropes, through people, and throws up in the nearest garbage can. And so when he comes back, not only is TSA on high alert, but so am I, because now 2 out of 3 of us have yacked within an hour's time. But I was like, we got to keep it together. We got to get on this flight. We have this wedding to make it to. He's in the wedding. Let's just go. Let's just do it. Just, cover your mouth and let's go in the plane. So we get onto the flight, and my husband shrivels into a ball in the corner seat by the window, and that's when I realize that he's not going to be on dad duty. So I suck it up, and I'm bouncing the baby in my lap, and as you can imagine, I'm bouncing her, distracting her, and she vomits all over me. The doors of the flight haven't even closed yet, but everyone was sitting down, and I am covered in puke from head to crotch. And I had to figure out a way to clean this all up so that we could just make it onto the plane. I was one of those people, I'm so sorry that, we were flying sick. And so we managed to just cover it all up. I took off some layers, and we flew. I distracted the baby, and we made it. We survived the flight. So Thanksgiving had been checked off the list, and now the flight had been checked off the list. We were making it through our checklist. And then we landed, and the doors opened to the fresh LA air, and I breathed it in, and of course, I was overcome then with the intense nausea, and like my husband, I did not have time to make it to the bathroom, and I threw up into the nearest shrub. But I threw up so much, it was probably all of Thanksgiving dinner and beyond. I threw up so much that it ricocheted off of the pavement back onto my pants, and so now I was covered in vomit from head to crotch, my baby's vomit, and from crotch to feet in my vomit, and it was like we had played paintball with our stomachs. It was that bad. So despite that, we survived the flight, and we got to my in-laws' house, and we were greeted to a beautifully arranged table, and my in-laws and family members in their Sunday best for the Sabbath dinner. They were making us this wonderful dinner mirrored by our sweaty, disgusting, disheveled, pukey selves. And we said, hi, and we went into a room to recover. So, quality time with in-laws, sort of check. We were going to see him later anyway. And so we just knew we needed to make it to this wedding. This was so important. This was my husband's best friend, and he was in the wedding. He was doing like magic down the aisle. It was going to be a really big occasion. But we had never been in the situation where we were taking care of a sick baby while we ourselves were sick. So we just prayed. We drank a lot of water, Gatorade, and by some miracle, within hours, the baby was fine. And by the next day, we were fine. And we found out that 20 out of the 30 people at that Thanksgiving dinner were also vomiting everywhere in every place. So we had completed the Thanksgiving wedding extravaganza checklist. We had made it to the wedding. We had suffered so much to get to that wedding, and we finally got there. I put on a cocktail dress. My husband put on a suit, and we were so happy for our friends. And a year later, they got divorced. Thank you.